She survived the fire that killed everyone around her. He was sent to eliminate her. Neither of them expected what happened next. Eva Cardoso has spent 6 months haunted by impossible memories of walking through flames unharmed, while carrying the guilt of being the sole survivor of a warehouse fire that claimed her entire team. But when a mysterious stranger with eyes that shift between gold and midnight saves her from certain death, she discovers the terrifying truth. She carries an ancient power inside her that both heaven and hell will destroy worlds to possess. Samael, the last pure-blooded Nephilim in existence, was ordered to kill her before the prophecy could be fulfilled. Instead, he finds himself drawn to protect the woman destined to extinguish him. As angelic hunters and demonic harbingers close in from all sides, they face an impossible question. What if the prophecy wasn't about destruction at all, but about creating something entirely new, something that could change? The balance of creation itself? The blood on her hands wouldn't wash off. Eva scrubbed harder, the scalding water turning her skin red, but the memory stained deeper than any fire could burn. 6 months had passed since she'd watched her team die. 6 months since she'd walked through flames that should have consumed her. 6 months of wondering why she alone had survived. The locker room was empty at 3 a.m. Most firefighters were either out on call or sleeping between shifts. Eva preferred it this way. No pitying glances, no whispered conversations that stopped when she entered a room. The night shift had become her sanctuary. She shut off the water and stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Dark circles underscored eyes that had seen too much. Her once vibrant brown curls were now cropped close to her skull. Easier to manage, harder to catch fire. A fresh scar curved along her jawline, the only visible reminder of that night. The invisible ones ran much deeper. The station alarm blared, red lights flashing across the walls. Eva moved automatically, muscle memory taking over as she suited up. 2 minutes later, she was climbing into the truck, the only one responding from her station. "Industrial fire at the old Westlake factory," Captain Morris informed her through the radio. "Engine 4 is already on scene. Reports say it's bad." Eva's skin prickled with a familiar sensation, a crawling heat that had nothing to do with the heavy gear. She'd felt it. That morning, too, a whisper of danger hours before the call came in. These feelings had started after the accident. Inexplicable premonitions she told no one about. "I'm 5 minutes out," she responded, ignoring the sensation. The factory loomed against the night sky, a concrete behemoth belching black smoke. Flames licked through shattered windows on the 3rd floor, painting the darkness orange. 2 other trucks were already positioned, firefighters battling the blaze with practiced efficiency. As Eva joined them, Captain Morris grabbed her arm. "3rd floor, East Wing. We've got a security guard trapped." "On it," she said, checking her oxygen tank. "Take Richards with you," Morris ordered, but Eva was already moving. "No time," she called back. "I can move faster alone." She ignored his protests, disappearing into the building's gaping entrance. The heat intensified with each step, but instead of the suffocating pressure most firefighters described, Eva felt something different, almost a welcome. The flames seemed to bend away as she navigated the smoke-filled corridors, her instincts guiding her toward the East Wing. The 3rd floor was an inferno. Support beams groaned overhead as fire consumed everything it touched. Eva moved quickly, calling out for the guard. Through the roar of the blaze, she heard a faint response from behind a collapsed doorway. "I'm coming," she shouted, assessing the burning debris blocking her path. Something shifted in her. Peripheral vision, a figure standing impossibly within the flames. Tall, male, watching her with unnatural stillness. For a split second, she thought she saw cracks in his skin, revealing golden light beneath. Eva blinked, and he vanished. Another hallucination. They'd been happening more frequently lately, manifestations of guilt, her therapist had said. She refocused on the task at hand. The debris was too heavy to move, and the flames too intense for standard procedure. But Eva knew, with the same certainty that had warned her of the fire this morning, that she could pass through. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, directly into the wall of fire. The flames caressed her protective gear, seeking weakness, finding none. Where they touched bare skin at her wrist, where her glove had separated from her sleeve, there was no pain, only a warm tingle like recognition. On the other side, she found the guard unconscious but breathing. As she lifted him over her shoulder, the building gave an ominous groan. The ceiling was about to collapse. Eva moved toward the window, the only possible escape route. 3 stories up, with no ladder in position. The guard was heavy, his weight threatening her balance. Below, she could see firefighters pointing up, scrambling to reposition a ladder truck. Too late. The ceiling gave way with a thunderous crack. Eva braced for impact, instinctively raising one arm to shield herself and the guard. But the crushing weight never came. When she dared to look up, her breath caught. The debris hung suspended 3 feet above her head, as if time had stopped. Standing between her and certain death was the same figure she'd glimpsed earlier, his back to her, arms outstretched. His skin was fractured with pulsing golden light, like magma flowing beneath the earth's crust. Where his feet touched the floor, the fire retreated, forming a perfect circle of untouched ground. "Get out," he commanded, his voice resonating with power that made the air vibrate. Now. Eva didn't question the impossible. She moved to the window, smashing it with her axe. Below, the ladder was finally extending toward them, but still too far. "I can't make that jump with him," she called out. The stranger turned his head, and Eva froze. One eye blazed molten gold, the other black as midnight with crimson flecks. His face was beautiful and terrible, the skin continuing to crack with each passing second, revealing more light beneath. "You can," he said simply. "You know you can." And somehow she did know. With the guard secure over her shoulder, Eva leapt into the open air. Instead of the deadly plummet that should have followed, she felt as if invisible hands were guiding her down, slowing her descent until she landed with impossible gentleness on the ladder below. Firefighters rushed to take the guard from her. Eva turned back toward the window, but both the stranger and the suspended debris were gone. In their place, the ceiling had collapsed, completely, filling the room she'd just escaped with burning rubble. Captain Morris was beside her suddenly, face pale. "How the hell did you get out of there?" Eva opened her mouth to explain, then closed it. What could she say? That a man with light breaking through his skin had held up a collapsing ceiling. That she'd jumped 3 stories and landed safely. "I don't know," she said instead. Later, after the fire was contained and the guard safely in an ambulance, Eva stood alone by the truck, removing her gear. The night air was cool against her skin, a sharp contrast to the inferno she'd walked through. She peeled off her glove and froze. The patch of skin that had been exposed to the flames should have been blistered and raw. Instead, it was unmarked, not even reddened. It wasn't a hallucination, was it? The voice came from behind her. Eva spun around, heart pounding. He stood in the shadows, now appearing fully human, painfully beautiful, with chiseled features and eyes that seemed normal at first glance. But as he stepped forward into the glow of the street lamp, she saw them shift, gold and black, then back to an ordinary hazel. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who's been watching you for a long time, Eva Cardoso." He moved closer, and she felt that familiar prickling heat crawl across her skin. "My name is Samael, and we need to talk about the fire that killed your team." Her blood turned to ice. "What do you know about that night?" "Everything," he said, his eyes shifting again, revealing their true nature. "Because I was there too." Samael watched emotions cascade across Eva's face: shock, disbelief, anger, and beneath it all, recognition. She knew him, even if she didn't remember how. The flame within her responded to his presence, a subtle warmth that neither of them could ignore. "You're lying," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Her hand unconsciously moved to the scar along her jawline, tracing its path. "No one survived that fire. Except me. I never said I survived it." Samael stepped closer, ignoring the way her body tensed. "I was there before it started." A police car rolled past the scene, its headlights briefly illuminating them. Samael's skin seemed to absorb the light, shadows dancing across his features unnaturally. Eva glanced around at her fellow firefighters still working the scene. "Not here," she said finally. "My apartment, tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'm at the West Ridge Complex on 5th, apartment 312. Samael nodded, committing the address to memory even though he already knew it. He'd known where she lived since the day she moved in, had watched her nightmares through her windows, seen her wake gasping for breath, fighting flames that weren't there. "Tomorrow, then," he agreed. Eva turned away, then hesitated. "How did you do that? In the building?" "The same way you walked through fire without burning." He held her gaze. "We're both more than what we appear to be." Before she could respond, Captain Morris called her name. When she looked back, Samael was gone. Dawn found him perched on the roof of the abandoned church across from Eva's apartment building. He hadn't always been this patient. In the beginning, when his angelic side had been stronger, he'd been impulsive, righteous, dangerous in his certainty. Over centuries, as the demonic half of his nature fought for dominance, he'd learned the value of waiting, watching, planning. It was what had kept him alive while other Nephilim were hunted to extinction. Inside her apartment, Eva moved from room to room. Even from this distance, he could feel the flame within her, a beacon that had drawn him to her long before the order came to eliminate her. The High Council of Nephilim feared what she carried inside her, the power that could fulfill the prophecy. They didn't understand what Samael had recognized immediately. The flame chose her for a reason. At precisely 9, he knocked on her door. Eva answered wearing faded jeans and a simple black t-shirt that revealed lean, muscled arms. The dark circles under her eyes had deepened overnight. She hadn't slept. "You came," she said, stepping aside to let him in. Her apartment was Spartan. Minimalist furniture, bare walls, no personal photos or mementos. A space for existing, not living. The only touch of personality was a collection of small, polished stones arranged on the windowsill, catching the morning light. "You don't believe in getting comfortable?" "Anywhere," Samael observed. "Not a question." Eva closed the door, arms crossed defensively. "Why were you at the factory fire? And the one that killed my team?" Direct. He'd expected nothing less. "I'm an investigator," he said, the practiced lie coming easily. "Not the kind that works with the police. I specialize in unusual fires." "Bullshit." She moved closer, unafraid despite what she'd witnessed last night. "Normal investigators don't hold up collapsing ceilings or have eyes that change. Color. What are you?" The question hung between them. Samael felt the familiar war inside him, his angelic half-urging truth, his demonic side-counseling manipulation. In the end, he chose a middle path. "I'm Nephilim," he said, watching her reaction. "Half angel, half demon. A mistake of creation that neither heaven nor hell claims." Eva's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Right, and I'm Snow White." He didn't smile back. Instead, he let his control slip, just enough. The glamour that kept him looking human fell away, revealing eyes of gold and midnight. The cracks appeared along his forearms first, fissures in his skin that revealed the light and darkness warring within. Eva stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. "Jesus Christ." "Not quite." Samael restored his human appearance with visible effort. "And before you ask, yes, all the stories are true. Angels, demons, the war that never ends. I'm caught in between." She sank onto the couch, hands trembling slightly. And what does any of that have to do with me? With the fire? Everything. He remained standing, giving her space to process. You survived something that should have killed you. Not just survived, walked through it unharmed. How do you know that? The official report says you were found unconscious outside the building after everyone else was dead. Samael finished for her. I know what really happened, Eva. I saw you in the heart of that inferno, flames moving around you like water parting for a stone. Her breathing quickened. That's not possible. Yet here we are. He gestured to the scar on her jaw. That's the only burn you received that night. The only place I couldn't reach in time. Eva's hand flew to the scar, eyes widening. You were there? Inside? Samael nodded, remembering the heat, the screams, her unconscious form surrounded by fire that refused to touch her. I was sent to observe, to confirm what we suspected. Which is what, exactly? Her voice had grown dangerously quiet. This was the moment, the fork in the path. Samael had come here with orders to assess her threat level and eliminate her if necessary. The High Council was clear. No human should possess the primordial flame. It was too dangerous, too unpredictable. Yet standing before her now, feeling the untapped power radiating from her, he knew he couldn't carry out that order. You carry something inside you, Ava. Something ancient and powerful. He chose his words carefully. The same thing that allows you to sense fires before they happen. That lets you walk through flame unharmed. She shook her head, denial warring with the truth she'd hidden even from herself. I'm just lucky. The doctors said, the doctors have no idea what you are. His voice was gentle but firm. You've felt it your whole life, haven't you? The connection to fire, the way it speaks to you, the way it spares you. Eva stood suddenly, pacing the small living room. Stop it. Just stop. Her hands were clenched into fists. Even if what you're saying is true, which is insane, why tell me now? Why not 6 months ago? Why not right after it happened? Because now you're in danger. Samael moved toward her, stopping when she flinched away. What's inside you is waking up. Every time you use it, even unconsciously, you signal your location to things far worse than me. As if on cue, the temperature in the apartment plummeted. Their breath fogged in the suddenly frigid air. Eva's eyes widened as frost crystallized on the windows, spreading in intricate patterns. What's happening? She whispered. Samael's skin began to crack again, golden light spilling through. They found you sooner than I expected. They? Who's they? Panic edged her voice. The windows imploded inward, showering them with glass. Eva screamed as dark shapes slithered through the openings. Not quite solid, not quite smoke, with glittering eyes like shards of ice. Harbingers, Samael growled, positioning himself between Eva and the, creatures. They've come for the flame. The nearest shape lunged toward them. Samael's arm shot out, light blazing from the cracks in his skin. The creature shrieked, recoiling from the radiance. But more were pouring in, surrounding them, the temperature dropping further until Eva's teeth chattered. What do we do? She gasped, pressing her back against his. Samael reached behind him, finding her hand. At the contact, heat surged between them, her inherent fire responding to his touch. The cracks in his skin widened, revealing more light. We need to wake what's inside you, he said urgently. The flame is the only thing they fear. I don't know how. A harbinger lunged, ice-cold tendrils wrapping around her ankle. Eva cried out in pain as frost spread across her skin. Without thinking, Samael spun and placed his palm against her chest, directly over her heart. Feel it, he commanded. The heat in your blood, the fire in your soul. It's always been there, Eva. Stop fighting it. Their eyes locked. Gold and midnight meeting brown. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Eva gasped, her eyes flaring with an inner light. Heat exploded outward from where they touched, a shock wave of pure fire that consumed the harbingers in a flash of searing white. The windows, the furniture, even the walls remained untouched, but every dark creature disintegrated to ash. Samael removed his hand slowly. Where he had touched her, a mark remained, a small flame-shaped burn over her heart, glowing faintly beneath her t-shirt. "What did you do to me?" Ava whispered, staring down at the mark. Before he could answer, the apartment door splintered open. A tall figure stood in the threshold, radiating cold fury. His eyes were pure silver, his clothing immaculate white. "Step away from the human, Samael," the newcomer commanded, voice resonating with celestial authority. Samael's expression hardened. "Archangel Uriel, you're a long way from the Silver City, and you have disobeyed." "Direct orders," Uriel replied, silver eyes fixed on Eva. The flame-bearer was to be eliminated, not awakened. Eva's world had shattered twice in 24 hours. First, discovering that the nightmares haunting her for 6 months were real. Now, learning that celestial beings wanted her dead for something burning inside her, something she'd never asked for. The archangel in her doorway radiated cold power. His silver eyes contained no pupil, no iris, just liquid mercury that seemed to flow, rather than blink. The temperature around him dropped so severely that the remaining shards of window glass frosted over. "The High Council was clear, Samael," Uriel said, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that made Eva's teeth ache. "You were to assess and eliminate, not bond." "Bond?" Eva looked at Samael, then down at the flame-shaped mark glowing beneath her shirt. "What is he talking about?" Samael's expression hardened, the cracks in his skin widening to reveal more golden light. "The Council was wrong. She's not what they think she is. She bears the flame that will extinguish the last child of the fall." Uriel's gaze swept to Eva, piercing through her as if she were glass. "The prophecy is absolute." "Prophecies can be misinterpreted," Samael countered, moving subtly to shield her. "You don't understand what she—" "Enough." Eva's voice cut through their argument. Heat radiated from her skin, the air around her shimmering. "I'm standing right here. Someone tell me what's happening to me." Both supernatural beings turned to her, surprise registering on their faces. Few humans could interrupt an angelic confrontation without being overwhelmed by the celestial presence. It was Uriel who recovered first, his perfect features arranging themselves into something resembling pity. "You carry an ancient power, human. The primordial flame, fire in its purest form, as it existed before creation was ordered. It was never meant for mortal vessels. Then why is it in me?" Eva demanded, her hands trembling despite her bold tone. "Because he put it there," Uriel said, pointing at Samael. 6 months ago, in that warehouse fire." Eva turned to Samael, betrayal washing over her face. "You did this to me? My team died because of you?" The cracks in Samael's skin began to seal, golden light dimming as darkness seeped through instead, his demonic nature responding to her pain. "It wasn't supposed to happen that way," he said quietly. "No one was supposed to die. But they did," she whispered, backing away from him. "Eva, listen to me." Samael reached for her, but she flinched away. "The flame chose you. I was only the conduit." "Lies," Uriel interjected smoothly. "He was sent to destroy the flame before others could claim it. Instead, he hid it inside you, a temporary vessel, to keep its power for himself." The mark on Eva's chest burned hotter, responding to her rising emotions. "My whole team, just collateral damage in some supernatural power play?" Samael's eyes flashed, gold and midnight battling for dominance. "That's not what happened." "Then what did happen?" she demanded. Before he could answer, Uriel moved with inhuman speed, appearing directly before Eva. His silver hand reached for her heart, where the mark glowed beneath her shirt. "I will complete what he could not," the archangel said, voice cold as winter. "The flame must be extinguished." Eva felt his touch like ice burning against her skin. Cold so intense it circled back to pain. She tried to scream, but found her lungs frozen, unable to draw breath. Then, Samael was there, grabbing Uriel's wrist. Where Nephilim met Archangel, reality itself seemed to crack. Light against light, darkness against cold. The apartment walls trembled, plaster raining down from the ceiling. "You will not touch her," Samael growled, his voice distorted as his skin split further, revealing more of his dual nature. Veins of darkness spread across one half of his face, while divine light blazed from the other. Uriel's perfect features contorted with disgust. "Abomination, you forget your place. My place was decided when I chose to fall." Samael's grip tightened on the archangel's wrist. "Just as I'm choosing now." With a surge of power that shattered every remaining window, Samael hurled the archangel across the room. Uriel crashed through the wall, leaving a perfect angel-shaped hole in the plaster. Eva gasped as feeling returned to her chest, the burning ice of Uriel's touch fading. The Dao mark over her heart pulsed like a second heartbeat. "We need to leave," Samael said urgently, turning to her. "Now. He won't stay down long." "I'm not going anywhere with you," Eva snarled, heat flaring around her hands. "You killed my team." "Your team was already dead when I found you." Samael's eyes blazed, darkness and light battling for control. "The fire wasn't my doing. It was set by those who sensed the flame's presence. I went in to rescue it before they could claim it, and found you. Instead, the only survivor, somehow immune to the flames, the fire itself refusing to harm you. A crash from the other room signaled Uriel recovering. They had seconds, not minutes. The flame was drawn to you, Eva," Samael continued desperately. "It chose you. I only facilitated the joining that was already happening. Please." "Nephilim lies." Uriel's voice rang out as he emerged through the broken wall, his immaculate appearance now marred with cracks that leaked silver light. "The flame obeys. No will but its wielders. He bound it to you, used you as a hiding place." Eva's head pounded with conflicting truths. The mark on her chest burned hotter, responding to her confusion and fear. Deep inside, something ancient stirred, not just heat, but awareness. Uriel lunged toward her again, silver light gathering at his fingertips. "Stand aside, abomination. This is celestial business." "Eva belongs to neither heaven nor hell," Samael growled, darkness spreading further across his features. He moved to intercept Uriel, but the archangel was faster, sidestepping and reaching for Eva again. Time slowed. Eva saw Uriel's hand approach, silver light promising oblivion. She saw Samael's desperate lunge, too far away to reach her in time. Something inside her snapped. Heat exploded outward from the mark on her chest. Not the controlled wave from before, but wild, primal fire that recognized an existential threat. Flames the color of sunrise engulfed her body, lifting her hair in a corona of fire. Her eyes blazed with inner light as she raised her hand against Uriel's approach. "Stop!" Her voice carried echoes of something ancient and terrible. To her shock, the archangel froze mid-motion, silver eyes widening with something she'd never expected to see on a celestial being. Fear. "Possible," Uriel whispered. "No human can command." "I said stop." Eva took a step forward, the flames around her intensifying. Each footfall left smoldering prints on the floor. "You tried to kill me. You called me a vessel, a tool." The fire surrounding her twisted into shapes, not random flickers, but patterns like wings unfurling from her back, stretching toward the ceiling. "Eva," Samael called, his voice strangely distant through the roar of flames in her ears. "The flame is controlling you. You need to pull it back." "Was it?" Eva couldn't tell where she ended and the fire began anymore. Power coursed through her veins, intoxicating in its purity. She could feel every molecule in the air, every heartbeat in the room. Uriel's fear tasted like metal on her tongue. She raised her hand higher, and the archangel rose with the gesture, suspended in midair. Silver light leaked from his mouth as he struggled against her hold. "You're not supposed to have this power," Uriel gasped. "And yet here we are," Eva replied, the flames speaking with her voice. Samael approached carefully, his own dual nature fully manifested now, one side blazing with angelic light, the other consumed by demonic shadow. "Ava, listen to me. This isn't you. The flame is ancient and has its own will. If you let it consume you, there won't be anything left of Eva Cardoso." His words penetrated the fire's haze. Eva blinked, momentarily confused. She looked at Uriel suspended by her power, at her own flame-wreathed hands. "What am I becoming?" she whispered. "What you were always meant to be," Uriel answered, his voice strained. "The destroyer." Samael shook his head. "Don't listen to him. You're not a destroyer unless you choose to be. The flame responds to your will, your heart. Right now, it's protecting you, but it will consume you if you let it." Eva felt tears evaporate before they could fall from her eyes. "How do I control it?" "Remember who you are," Samael said softly. "Not what the flame wants. Not what heaven or hell wants. Who Eva Cardoso is." Eva closed her eyes. Images flashed through her mind, carrying people from burning buildings, the weight of responsibility, the pride of saving lives, the guilt of surviving when others hadn't, the loneliness of the past 6 months. Slowly, deliberately, she lowered her hand. Uriel crashed to the floor but made no move to attack again. The flames receded, pulling back into her skin until only the mark on her chest still glowed. "This isn't over," Uriel said, rising to his feet with celestial grace, despite his battered appearance. "Heaven will not allow the flame to remain unbound." "It is bound," Samael replied, moving to stand beside Eva. To her, the archangel's silver eyes narrowed. "Then heaven has no choice but to eliminate both of you." He turned to Eva, his perfect face cold. "You've made your choice, human. The consequences will follow." With a sound like rushing wings, Uriel vanished, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. Eva stared at the space where he'd been, reality crashing down around her. Her apartment was destroyed. An archangel had just threatened to kill her. And the man, the Nephilim, standing beside her, had changed her life irrevocably 6 months ago. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice small. Samael's skin slowly returned to its human appearance, the cracks sealing, though his eyes remained their true dual colors. "Now we run," he said simply, "because heaven and hell are both coming for what you carry." Eva touched the mark on her chest, feeling the steady pulse of power beneath her fingertips. "And what exactly is that?" "The one thing both sides fear," Samael answered, his expression grim. "The power to end the war between them forever." They drove through the night in Samael's black Challenger, headlights cutting through darkness as rain began to fall. Eva sat in silence, watching raindrops catch the glow of passing streetlights. Her life had been reduced to a duffel bag hastily packed with essentials and the clothes on her back. Everything else, her apartment, her job, her carefully constructed isolation, left behind. The mark on her chest pulsed with gentle heat, a constant reminder of what she now carried. Every so often it would flare, sending waves of warmth through her body that made her fingers tingle and her vision sharpen unnaturally. Each time, Samael would glance at her, his dual-colored eyes assessing before returning to the road. "You should try to sleep," he said finally, breaking the silence that had stretched for over 100 miles. "With an archangel hunting me and fire living under my skin?" Eva laughed bitterly. "Sure, I'll get right on that." Samael's hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. Beneath his skin, cracks of golden light appeared briefly before he controlled them. The flame responds to your emotions. The stronger they are, fear, anger, confusion, the more it pushes for control. So I'm just supposed to not feel anything. She turned to face him, anger simmering. You did this to me. You don't get to tell me how to handle it. I saved your life, he countered, his voice low. If I hadn't placed the flame inside you, you would have died with your team. The words hung between them, heavy with implications. Eva turned away, watching raindrops race down the window, trying to process the impossible truth. 6 months of survivor's guilt, of therapy sessions where she'd claimed not to remember what happened, of nightmares filled with flames that spoke to her. Why me? She asked finally. Out of everyone in that warehouse, why was I the one you chose? Samael was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he did, his voice had softened. I didn't choose you, Eva. The flame did. You keep saying that, but it doesn't make any sense. When I entered that warehouse, the fire wasn't natural. It had been set by harbingers, the same creatures that attacked your apartment. They were sent to destroy the flame while it was vulnerable, between vessels. His eyes flickered between the road and her face. I went to save it, to bring it back to the High Council of Nephilim for protection. But when I found it, it was already with me. Eva finished, a memory surfacing. Not a coherent image, but a feeling, warmth embracing her while everything burned around her. Samael nodded. You were unconscious, surrounded by flames that wouldn't touch you. Your team was already gone. The harbingers had made sure of that. But you... His expression turned wondering. You were holding the flame like it was a wounded bird, cradling it against your chest. I've never seen anything like it. Eva's hand moved unconsciously to the mark. So, what did you do? What it wanted? I completed the bond it was already forming with you. His jaw tightened. I didn't know what would happen. The flame has never chosen a human before. The highway stretched before them, empty in the early morning hours. Rain drummed steadily on the roof, creating a cocoon of sound around their conversation. Where are we going? Eva asked, changing the subject before more painful memories could surface. Somewhere safe. A place neither heaven nor hell can easily reach. Samael checked the rearview mirror for the 1,000th time. There's a network of Nephilim safe houses, places between worlds. I thought you were the last one. She studied his profile, the perfect angles of his face that weren't quite human. The prophecy said I would extinguish the last child of the fall. His expression darkened. I'm the last full-blooded Nephilim. The others are diluted by generations of human ancestry. Still caught between worlds, but different. Weaker in power, stronger in their humanity. The road began to climb as they entered mountain terrain. Trees loomed on either side, creating walls of deeper darkness beyond the reach of headlights. Eva felt the altitude in her ears, a subtle pressure building. And they'll help us? These diluted Nephilim? They'll help you. Samael's voice took on an edge. I'm not exactly welcome among them. The blood of the original fallen is problematic. Eva processed this new information, trying to fit it into the impossible reality she now inhabited. Before she could ask another question, the mark on her chest flared with sudden heat. She gasped, doubling over as fire raced through her veins. Eva? Samael's voice seemed distant through the roaring in her ears. Images flashed through her mind, silver wings descending from storm clouds, dozens of them, searching, hunting. The sensation of being watched prickled across her skin. They're coming, she whispered, the flame speaking through her. The host is searching. Samael swore under his breath, accelerating the car. We're still too far from the safe house. They'll track the flame's energy signature. What do we do? Fear made her voice tight, which only intensified the burning beneath her skin. The leather seat beneath her began to smoke where her fingers gripped it. We need to mask your presence. Samael swerved the car onto an unmarked forest road, trees scraping the sides of the vehicle. There's a place ahead, a liminal space where realities overlap. It might confuse them long enough. The narrow dirt road climbed steeply through dense forest. Rain turned to mist around them, obscuring visibility. Eva's breath came in short gasps as the flame pushed against her control, responding to her panic. Samael, I can't... She broke off as her skin began to glow from within, orange light shining through like she was made of paper. It's burning through me. He reached across the center console and gripped her hand. Where they touched, balance surged, his dual nature somehow tempering the flame's wild power. The burning receded slightly, becoming manageable. Hold on, he said, his own skin cracking with responding light. We're almost there. The car burst through the tree line into a small clearing. In the center stood the ruins of an old church, stone walls partially collapsed, the roof long gone. Mist swirled around the structure, behaving contrary to natural air. Currents, as if the ruin existed in its own atmospheric bubble. Samael stopped the car and turned to her, his eyes blazing with their true colors. Listen carefully. Once we cross the threshold, reality will shift. Don't let go of my hand, no matter what you see or hear. The flame will try to interact with the liminal energies. You must keep it contained. Eva nodded, beyond questioning the impossible. The mark on her chest pulsed in time with her racing heart as Samael came around to her, door and helped her from the car. Together they approached the ruined church. The mist grew thicker with each step, curling around their ankles like living tendrils. The air smelled of petrichor and something older. Incense, perhaps, or the memory of prayers long forgotten. At the broken archway that had once been the main entrance, Samael paused. Ready? Eva squared her shoulders, summoning the courage that had carried her into countless burning buildings. Ready. They stepped through the threshold together. Reality fractured. The ruins remained, but now they were simultaneously new and ancient, destroyed and whole. Eva saw multiple versions of the church occupying the same space, a wooden structure newly built, a stone cathedral in its prime, the modern ruins, and a future where nothing remained but a single standing arch, all layered atop one another like transparent photographs. Don't let go, Samael's voice echoed strangely, as if coming from multiple throats. When she looked at him, she gasped. His true form was visible here. Massive wings of light and shadow stretching from his back, half blazing like the sun, half absorbing all light like the void. His face shifted between beautiful and terrible, divine and damned. Eva felt the flame respond, surging upward from the mark on her chest to engulf her body. But here, in this place between realities, it manifested differently. Instead of destructive heat, it took form as a crown of fire above her head and a mantle of flame around her shoulders. It felt right somehow, like slipping into clothes tailored perfectly to her form. What is this place? She whispered, her voice creating ripples in the air that spread outward in visible waves. A convergence point. Samael's dual voice resonated through the space, where multiple realities touch. Angels can't pinpoint us here. There are too many versions of us occupying the same coordinates. Eva turned slowly, taking in the impossible geometry of the place. In one corner, sunlight streamed through intact stained glass windows. In another, moonlight illuminated bare stone. Snow fell through the missing roof in one reality, while summer flowers bloomed in another. It's beautiful, she breathed. And dangerous. Samael tightened his grip on her hand. We can only stay briefly. Liminal spaces have their own guardians. As if summoned by his words, shapes materialized at the edges of Eva's vision. Figures neither human nor divine, their forms constantly shifting. They moved closer, drawn to the flame's light. What are they? She asked, pressing closer to Samael's side. the in-between ones, entities that exist in the gaps between realities. His wings curled protectively around her. They're curious about you. The flame hasn't been seen in this realm for millennia. One of the figures drifted closer, its form resembling smoke given temporary substance. It reached toward Eva with appendages that were sometimes hands, sometimes wings, sometimes, nothing recognizable. The flame reacted before she could, tendrils of fire extending from her outstretched fingertips to meet the entity halfway. Instead of burning it, the fire seemed to communicate, dancing in patterns that the creature responded to with movements of its own. "Ava," Samael warned, tension vibrating through his wings. "Don't engage with them." But it was too late. Knowledge poured into her mind as the flame and entity communicated. Images of the flame's past, of its purpose, of what it had been before Samael found it in the warehouse. "They're showing me," she gasped as understanding bloomed. The flame wasn't hiding. It was waiting. For me. The entity withdrew, bowing in a movement that transcended physical limitations. The others followed suit, creating a path through their midst toward the far side of the ruins. "They're helping us," Ava realized, the flame's knowledge flowing through her. "They're showing us a way out that the angels can't follow." Samael's expression was unreadable, his divine, half-radiating concern, while his demonic side showed calculation. "We can't trust them, Ava. Liminal entities have their own agendas. So does everyone else in this mess," she countered, newfound confidence strengthening her voice. "At least they're not trying to kill me." Before he could argue further, a sound like thunder rolled across all realities simultaneously. The convergence point shuddered, the multiple versions of the church vibrating against each other. "The host has found us," Samael growled, wings flaring. "We need to move. Now." Eva looked toward the path the entities had created, then back at Samael. The flame whispered in her mind, offering knowledge without words. "Do you trust me?" she asked him, their roles suddenly reversed. Surprise flickered across his ever-changing features. "What? Do you trust me?" she repeated, the flame's mantle brightening around her shoulders. "Because I think I know what to do." The thunder grew. Louder. Through the broken walls, silver light began to penetrate the mist, the glow of approaching angels. Samael studied her for a long moment, his dual nature at war within him. Finally, he nodded once. "Lead the way." With the flame guiding her, Eva stepped forward along the path cleared by the liminal entities, pulling Samael behind her. The convergence points swirled around them, realities sliding past like shuffled cards. At the far wall, whole in some realities, rubble in others, she stopped. Raising her free hand, she let the flame flow through her fingers, drawing a pattern in the air that left trails of fire hanging like suspended lightning. The wall rippled and parted, revealing not the forest beyond, but a tunnel of pure light that seemed to lead everywhere and nowhere. "What have you done?" Samael whispered, awe and fear mingling in his voice. Eva turned to him, the flame's crown illuminating her face with otherworldly light. "I found us a shortcut." Behind them, the first angels breached the convergence point, their silver light clashing with the liminal energies. Ahead lay the unknown path, created by the flame's ancient knowledge. Eva stepped forward, pulling Samael toward the tunnel of light. Time to see what this flame can really do. The tunnel swallowed them whole. One moment they stood at the threshold, angels bearing down from behind. The next, they were pulled into a slipstream of pure light. Eva's stomach lurched as reality inverted around them. Her hand remained locked with Samael's, his grip so tight it would have hurt if not for the flame's protection. They weren't falling exactly. They were moving through something that transcended normal physics, a corridor between realities that the flame somehow navigated instinctively. Streaks of color rushed past them, the blues and greens of Earth, the silver white of celestial realms, the crimson black of infernal domains. "What is this place?" Eva gasped, her voice strangely flat, as though sound couldn't propagate normally here. A path between worlds. Samael's wings were fully manifested now, streams of light and shadow trailing behind them. The oldest ways, forged before the separation of realms. I didn't think anything could still access them. Eva felt the flame's satisfaction at his wonder. This ancient power she carried had secrets even Nephilim didn't know. The mark on her chest radiated comfortable warmth, no longer threatening to consume her, but working with her. Instead, the tunnel began to narrow, colors concentrating into a single point ahead. Eva instinctively tucked herself closer to Samael as they accelerated toward it. His wings curved around her protectively, creating a cocoon of feathers both luminous and dark. "Brace yourself," he warned, seconds before they hit the point of light. The world exploded back into existence around them. Eva stumbled forward onto solid ground, disoriented by the sudden return of gravity. Her knees hit dirt as she fell, the abrupt sensation of weight and physical reality overwhelming after the tunnel's otherworldliness. Samael landed more gracefully beside her, wings folding into non-existence as he helped her to her feet. "Are you all right?" Eva nodded, struggling to adjust. The flame's crown and mantle had receded back into the mark, leaving her feeling strangely vulnerable despite the power still thrumming beneath her skin. They stood in a dense forest clearing, but not the one they'd left behind. The trees here were ancient, massive trunks wider than cars, their canopies stretching hundreds of feet into the sky. Mist clung to the moss-covered ground, but this fog felt natural, not liminal. Dawn light filtered through the leaves above, casting everything in emerald and gold. "Where are we?" Eva whispered, her voice returning to normal, but still hushed with awe. Samael turned slowly, taking in their surroundings with visible surprise. The old forest, one of the last truly wild places left on Earth. He looked at her with newfound respect. "How did you know to come here?" "I didn't. The flame did." Eva brushed dirt from her knees, feeling the forest's ancient presence enveloping them. It said angels rarely enter these woods, something about the trees being older than their dominion. Samael's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "The flame speaks to you now?" "Not with words exactly. More like impressions. Knowledge." Eva struggled to explain. "Since the church, it's become clearer. Like it was waiting for me to acknowledge it." She took a few steps forward, letting her fingers trail across the rough bark of the nearest giant. Where she touched, tiny flames danced briefly across the surface without burning the wood. The tree seemed to shiver in response, branches rustling despite the still air. "The forest recognizes the flame," Samael observed, watching the reaction spread from tree to tree, a whisper of movement rippling outward from their position. "And it's welcoming us." Eva felt it too. A sense of acceptance from the ancient wood, a permission to be here that settled around her shoulders like a familiar weight. The flame pulsed contentedly beneath her skin. "Will the angels follow us through the tunnel?" she asked, turning back to Samael. His expression darkened. "They can't use that exact path. The flame closed it behind us, but they have other ways to track us. We shouldn't linger." "So what's the plan now? Keep running forever?" Eva's brief moment of wonder faded as their reality reasserted itself. "I left everything behind, Samael. My job, my home. Your job where you were isolated and avoided by colleagues who sensed something different about you?" He countered gently. "Your home that was more cell than sanctuary?" The truth of his words stung. Since the warehouse fire, she'd been existing, not living, pushing away anyone who tried to get close. Working shifts no one wanted, sleeping only when exhaustion overcame nightmares. "That doesn't mean I want to spend the rest of my life hunted by angels and whatever those harbinger things were," she shot back. "Harbingers are hell's trackers," Samael explained, starting to walk deeper into the forest. Eva followed, drawn by both necessity and the flame's curiosity about this place. Demons can't manifest fully on Earth without invitation, but harbingers exist in the borderlands. They're sent to locate objects of power, like the flame, for their masters to claim. So I've got both heaven and hell after me. Great. Eva's laugh held no humor. And what about the Nephilim Council? The ones who sent you to assess and eliminate me? Samael was quiet for several steps, navigating around a massive fallen trunk covered in luminescent fungi. The council fears the prophecy more than they fear heaven or hell. The flame that will extinguish the last child of the fall. They interpret that to mean you will destroy me, the last pure-blooded Nephilim. And what do you think it means? Eva asked, studying his profile as dappled light played across his features. His eyes met hers, gold and midnight even in their human disguise. I think prophecies are written to be misunderstood until they're fulfilled. The council sent me because I'm the strongest, the one most likely to succeed against the flame. They didn't count on... He trailed off, looking away. Didn't count on what? Eva pressed. Didn't count on the flame choosing you, he finished. But something in his tone suggested he'd meant to say something else. They walked in silence for a time, the forest growing denser around them. Without any visible path, Samael navigated by some internal compass, occasionally touching certain trees as if confirming their position. The mark on Eva's chest began to warm again, not painfully, but noticeably. She placed her hand over it, feeling its steady pulse. It's responding to something here. Samael nodded. We're nearing the heart of the forest. There's a place of power ahead, a sanctuary of sorts where my kind once gathered before our numbers dwindled. Your kind? I thought you said you weren't welcome among the other Nephilim. I'm not. But this place predates those divisions. His expression grew distant. After the fall, before the great hunt that nearly wiped us out, Nephilim built safe havens in places angels feared to tread. This forest grew around one such haven, protecting it as it protected the trees. The canopy above began to thin, allowing stronger beams of sunlight to penetrate. Ahead, the mist parted to reveal a circular clearing. At its center stood a structure unlike anything Eva had ever seen, neither building nor natural formation, but something in between. Stone columns rose from the earth like they'd grown there, supporting arches that wove seamlessly with living branches from the surrounding trees. Walls of intertwined wood and crystal created surfaces that were somehow both solid and permeable. What is this place? Eva breathed, the flame leaping beneath her skin in recognition. The Sanctuary of Embers, Samael answered, his voice holding reverence despite himself. Built by the first Nephilim who chose Earth over the war between heaven and hell. As they approached, Eva noticed symbols carved into the columns. Not quite angelic script, not quite demonic, but something that incorporated elements of both. The flame responded to these markings, the heat in her chest intensifying until golden light began to shine through her. Shirt again. It knows this place, she said, placing her palm against the nearest column. Where she touched, the carved symbols illuminated with inner fire, spreading outward like a wave until the entire structure glowed with warm light. Samael watched in astonishment. The sanctuary hasn't awakened like this in centuries. Inside, the structure opened into a space larger than seemed possible from outside. The central chamber was circular, with a skylight formed by interwoven branches high. Above, stone benches curved around a central fire pit that had long been cold, until Eva stepped toward it. Without her consciously willing it, a spark jumped from her fingertips to the ancient wood, igniting a flame that burned with the same golden-orange hue as the mark on her chest. The flame has come home, a voice said from the shadows. Eva and Samael both whirled toward the sound. An elderly woman emerged from a side chamber, her silver hair cascading down her back, her dark skin lined with age and marked with faint silvery scars that formed patterns similar to the ones carved outside. Though she appeared human, her eyes gave her away. One iris a pale blue, the other a muted amber. diluted Nephilim blood, but present nonetheless. "Guardian," Samael acknowledged, tension evident in his stance. "I didn't expect to find you still alive. And I didn't expect to see the last pureblood bringing a human to our sanctuary," the woman replied, her gaze shifting to Eva. "Though she's not entirely human anymore, is she? Not with the heart of creation burning in her chest." Eva's hand instinctively covered the mark. "The heart of creation? That's what the old ones called it," the guardian said, moving closer to the central fire. "The primordial flame that existed before light was separated from darkness, before angels and demons, before the fall." She circled Eva slowly, studying her with ancient eyes. "How interesting that it chose you. A mortal woman. A firefighter. No. Less." Her smile held genuine amusement. "The flame always did appreciate irony. You speak of it as if it's sentient," Eva said. "Of course it's sentient. All primal forces are." The guardian gestured to the fire pit where the flame danced merrily. "They simply think on a scale we can barely comprehend." Samael stepped forward. "We need sanctuary, Guardian. Heaven's host and hell's harbingers both hunt us." The elderly woman's expression hardened as she turned to him. "And why should I grant it to you, last son of the fall? You who have carried out the council's dirty work for centuries. You who have hunted your own diluted kin when ordered." Eva felt Samael tense beside her. The cracks appeared briefly in his skin, darkness seeping through rather than light. His demonic nature responding to the accusation. "I've done what was necessary to survive," he said, voice low. "As have we all." The guardian's mismatched eyes bored into him. "But the question remains. Why bring her here? Why risk exposing the last sanctuary for a human carrying the flame that could destroy you?" The question hung in the air between them. Eva turned to Samael, suddenly uncertain. It was a valid point. Why was he helping her? According to everyone else, she carried the power to end his existence. Samael's gaze remained locked with the guardians. Because she didn't ask for this burden. Because the flame chose her. And because... He hesitated, the cracks in his skin sealing as he regained control. "Because I believe the prophecy doesn't mean what the council thinks it means." The guardian studied him for a long, tense moment. Finally, she nodded once. "The sanctuary recognizes the flame as kin. You may remain until the next full moon, 3 nights from now. After that, your path is your own." Relief washed through Eva, her knees suddenly weak with exhaustion. The flame had sustained her through their flight, but now the events of the past 24 hours crashed down upon her. She swayed, slightly, and Samael's hand was immediately at her elbow, steadying her. "She needs rest," he said to the guardian. "She's new to carrying the flame." The elderly woman's expression softened slightly. "Take the eastern chamber. It's furthest from the forest's edge, best protected." She turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing, last son of the fall." "Yes?" The guardian's eyes gleamed with ancient knowledge. "When a flame chooses a vessel, it changes to match what it finds there. Remember that before you fear what she might become." With those cryptic words, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving Eva and Samael alone by the dancing fire. Eva turned to him, questions burning on her tongue, but exhaustion overcame her before she could speak. As she sank onto one of the stone benches, her last conscious thought was of Samael's eyes, gold and midnight, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Was it concern, protection, or something deeper that neither heaven nor hell had counted on? Eva woke to unfamiliar sensations. Moss-scented air, dappled light playing across closed eyelids, and the gentle hum of the flame beneath her skin. For a moment, disoriented between dreams and reality, she thought she was back in her apartment. Then memory returned in a rush. Angels, harbingers, the flame awakening within her. She opened her eyes to find herself in the eastern chamber of the sanctuary. She lay on a bed that seemed grown rather than built, formed from living wood that curved to perfectly support her body. Soft moss and woven fabrics provided cushioning. Above, the ceiling was a latticework of branches and crystal that filtered sunlight into shifting patterns across the floor. The mark on her chest pulsed contentedly, as if the sanctuary itself nourished the flame. Ava sat up, noticing someone had removed her shoes, but left her otherwise clothed. A basin of clear water sat on a nearby table, alongside a bundle of clean fabrics. She washed quickly, grateful to remove the grime of their journey. The new clothes fit surprisingly well. Loose pants of some soft material, and a sleeveless tunic, both in shades of forest green. The tunic left the flame's mark visible at her sternum, a small circular brand that glowed softly with inner fire. When she emerged from the chamber, Eva found the central room empty save for the fire still burning in the pit. She approached it, drawn by its familiar energy. This wasn't ordinary fire. It was an extension of what lived inside her, responding to her presence by flaring higher as she neared. It recognizes you as its keeper. Eva turned to find the guardian entering from another chamber, carrying a wooden tray with 2 steaming cups. "I'm not its keeper," Eva said. "I didn't ask for this." The guardian's mismatched eyes crinkled with gentle amusement. "Few who carry power ever ask for it." She offered one of the cups. "Herb tea. It will help stabilize the flame's energy." Eva accepted it cautiously. The liquid inside was amber-colored and smelled of honey and something spicy. "Where's Samael?" "Patrolling the forest boundaries. Even here we must be vigilant." The guardian settled onto a stone bench, gesturing for Eva to join her. "He's troubled by bringing you here. This place holds memories he'd rather forget." Eva sat, warming her hands around the cup. "Why does everyone act like he's dangerous? He's been protecting me." The guardian studied her with those ancient, knowing eyes. "Has he told you his true name?" "Not Samael. That's what he calls himself now. But the name he bore when he first fell." Eva shook her head. "Ask him," the guardian suggested. "It might help you understand why the council fears the prophecy so deeply." She sipped her tea, then changed the subject. "The flame has begun speaking to you." It wasn't a question. Eva nodded anyway. Not with words exactly, but yes. It's like having another consciousness alongside mine. Ancient. Powerful. The primordial. "Flame existed before creation was ordered," the guardian explained. "It remembers when light and darkness were one force, not opponents. When angels and demons were simply different expressions of the same divine will. Why did it choose me?" Eva asked the question that had been haunting her since learning the truth. The guardian smiled mysteriously. "Perhaps because you walk into fires that would destroy others. Perhaps because you carry guilt for surviving when others perished. Or perhaps..." She leaned closer, studying the mark. "Perhaps because your soul already contained an ember of something greater." Eva sipped the tea, surprised by its pleasant taste. Honey and cinnamon with something deeper beneath. As she drank, the flame's energy seemed to settle within her, less restless than before. "Can I learn to control it? Without it taking over?" "The flame doesn't wish to control you, child. It wishes to partner with you." The guardian set her empty cup aside. "But yes, there are techniques. The Nephilim who built this sanctuary developed methods to balance their dual natures. Similar principles might help you." She rose, motioning for Eva to follow. They walked to an alcove Eva hadn't noticed before, where intricate designs were carved into living wood and stone. The patterns seemed to shift as Eva looked at them, never quite the same when she blinked. "These are balance sigils," the guardian explained. "Place your hand on the central pattern." Eva did as instructed. The moment her palm touched the wood, the sigil illuminated with golden light. Heat spiraled up her arm, not painful, but intense. Within her chest, the flame responded, its mark glowing brighter. For a moment, Eva felt herself splitting, not physically, but as if her consciousness was dividing between herself and the flame. Then, unexpectedly, harmony. The two awarenesses synchronized, neither dominating, both present. Eva gasped as the sensation settled. What was that? Alignment, the guardian said simply. The sigil helps separate what is you from what is flame, then shows how the two can coexist without conflict. Eva stared at her palm, where the sigil's pattern had temporarily transferred to her skin in lines of fading fire. It feels different, clearer. Practice this alignment daily and you'll gain greater control. The guardian moved away from the alcove. Though I suspect full mastery will require something more personal than ancient sigils. Before Eva could ask what she meant, a disturbance rippled through the sanctuary. The branches forming the walls shivered, and the central fire flickered anxiously. The guardian's expression sharpened. Something approaches the forest's edge, she said, moving swiftly toward the entrance. Eva followed, the flame rising within her in response to potential threat. Outside the sanctuary, the forest had darkened despite the midday hour, shadows deepening between the ancient trees. The air felt charged, as if a storm approached. A figure emerged from the trees, Samael, moving with unnatural speed. His human disguise had slipped. Cracks of golden light and seeping darkness mapped across his skin, and his eyes blazed their true colors. Angels, he reported tersely. A scouting party at the northern boundary. They haven't penetrated the forest yet, but they're testing its defenses. The guardian's face remained impassive, but Eva noticed her hands trembling slightly. Whether from age or fear, she couldn't tell. How many? 5. Led by Uriel. Samael's gaze shifted to Eva. They're being cautious. The forest's ancient power gives them pause. For now, the guardian added grimly. But if they determine the flame is here, they'll risk entering. Eva felt cold despite the warmth of the mark on her chest. I've put you in danger by coming here. The sanctuary has withstood greater threats, the guardian assured her, though her eyes belied her confident tone. We have time to prepare. Prepare for what? Eva asked. I can't fight angels. I barely understand what's happening to me. Samael stepped closer, his dual nature still visible beneath his skin. You don't have to fight them. Just keep the flame controlled while we strengthen the forest's natural defenses. The guardian nodded in agreement. The trees will help shield us, but we must reinforce the old wards. She turned to Samael. You remember the ritual? A shadow crossed his face. I remember. Eva looked between them, sensing unspoken history. What ritual? Blood wards, Samael explained reluctantly. Nephilim blood freely given to the forest strengthens its protective magic. The purer the bloodline, the stronger the ward. Understanding dawned. That's why the guardian was surprised you brought me here. You've avoided this place because they would want your blood. My blood has complications. His expression closed off. The sanctuary and I have history that makes such exchanges problematic. The guardian made a sound between a snort and a laugh. What he means is that his blood carries the essence of the first fallen. The most powerful, yes, but also the most volatile. The last time he gave blood to the forest, she gestured to a section of the sanctuary where the stone had been blackened as if by intense heat. I lost control, Samael admitted, jaw tight. My demonic nature overwhelmed the angelic when my blood was drawn. It won't happen again. Eva studied him, seeing past his closed expression, to the tension beneath. There's another way, she said suddenly, the flame's knowledge flowing through her. The mark on my chest, it's a conduit. I can help balance you during the ritual. Both Samael and the guardian stared at her in surprise. How do you know this? The guardian asked. The flame showed me. Eva placed her hand over the glowing mark. When we touched earlier, in the car, it stabilized both of us. I think that's part of why it chose me, to create balance. Samael's expression was unreadable, his dual-colored eyes searching her face. It's dangerous. If it fails, my demonic nature could overwhelm both of us. And if we do nothing, angels led by Uriel will breach the forest and take the flame by force, Eva countered. Besides, I just learned an alignment technique that might help. The Guardian's eyebrows rose in approval. Resourceful, the sigil working combined with the flame's natural balancing properties could indeed provide the necessary stability. Samael still hesitated. Eva could see the battle within him, not just between his angelic and demonic sides, but between duty and something more personal. Finally, he nodded once. We'll try it your way, he agreed. But at the first sign of trouble, you break contact. Promise me. I promise, Eva said, though something within her, whether her own intuition or the flame's ancient wisdom, knew she would do no such thing if it meant leaving him to face his demons alone. The Guardian led them to a massive oak at the sanctuary's edge, its trunk wider than any Eva had seen before. Carved into the bark was another sigil, similar to the alignment pattern but more complex, with spaces clearly meant for blood offerings. The ritual must be completed by moonrise, the Guardian explained. When the ward activates, it will conceal our presence completely for one full cycle of the moon, giving us time to plan our next move, Samael added, already rolling up his sleeve. The Guardian produced a silver knife from within her robes, its blade etched with symbols that matched the oak's sigil. Last son of the fall, do you freely offer your blood to the forest that has sheltered your kind? Samael's eyes flashed, gold briefly overwhelming midnight. I do. Flamebearer, do you freely offer your stabilizing power to balance what might otherwise destroy? Eva felt the mark warm in response to the formal words. I do. Then let the old covenant be renewed. The Guardian handed the knife to, Samael. He positioned himself before the sigil, then held out his free hand to Eva. She took it without hesitation, feeling the immediate connection as the flame responded to his touch. With her other hand, she touched the mark on her chest, channeling the alignment she had learned earlier. Ready? Samael asked softly. Eva nodded, tightening her grip on his hand. The silver blade flashed in the dappled light as Samael drew it across his palm. Blood welled immediately, not the crimson of humans, but a shimmering gold threaded with veins of shadow. The moment it appeared, Eva felt the change in him, his demonic nature surging forward, cracks spreading across his skin as darkness began to overtake light. She poured her focus into the connection between them, visualizing the flame's energy as a counterweight to the spreading darkness. The mark on her chest blazed with sudden heat. Where their hands joined, golden light spread up both their arms, creating a circuit of balanced energy. Samael's face contorted with effort as he pressed his bleeding palm against the sigil on the ancient oak. His blood sizzled upon contact, the liquid gold and shadow seeping into the carved patterns. The tree shuddered, its branches swaying without wind. Throughout the forest, a tremor passed from tree to tree, a ripple of awakening power. Eva felt it through the soles of her feet, a deep vibration that resonated with the flame inside her. The mark on her chest expanded its glow, tendrils of fire, spreading across her skin in patterns that matched the sigil on the oak. Samael groaned, his demonic side fighting for dominance as more blood flowed into the tree. Eva tightened her grip, pushing more of the flame's balancing energy into him. Their auras merged visibly now, his wings half manifesting in shimmering outline, her fiery crown and mantle appearing as they had in the liminal church. It's working, the Guardian breathed, watching in apparent awe as the blood sigil began to pulse with combined power, shadow and light, held in perfect tension by the flame's influence. A wave of golden energy suddenly burst from the oak, racing outward in all directions through the forest. Where it passed, the trees seemed to stand taller, their ancient power awakening fully. At the forest's edge, roots erupted from the ground to form barriers, branches intertwined to create impenetrable walls. With a final surge, the ritual completed. Samael sagged against the oak, his breathing ragged. Eva held him upright, her own strength surprising her. The flame hummed with satisfaction within her chest, its mark settling back to a gentle glow. "It is done," the guardian announced. "The ward stands. We are hidden from heaven's sight." Samael straightened slowly, his dual nature once again under control. His eyes met Eva's, filled with something new. Not just gratitude, but wonder. "How did you do that?" he asked quietly. "No one has ever been able to balance me during a blood ritual before." Eva looked down at their still joined hands, where the last traces of golden light were fading. "I don't think it was me," she admitted. "It was us. Together." The guardian watched them with knowing eyes. "Perhaps," she said. "This is what the prophecy truly means. Not destruction, but transformation." Samael's expression shifted, a new understanding dawning. The flame will extinguish the last child of the fall by creating something new in its place, Eva finished, the flame's ancient wisdom flowing through her words. Around them, the forest settled into protective vigilance, its power renewed. For the moment at least, they were safe. But in the connection still humming between them, both Eva and Samael sensed a greater truth taking shape, one that would either save them both or consume them entirely. Moonlight filtered through the sanctuary's crystal dome, casting ethereal patterns across the central chamber. Eva sat alone by the fire pit, watching flames dance in perfect mimicry of her thoughts. 2 days had passed since the warding ritual. 2 days of relative safety within the forest's boundaries. 2 days of learning to communicate with the ancient power she carried. And 2 days of Samael keeping his distance. Since the moment they'd completed the blood ward, something had changed between them. The connection they'd shared, flame balancing darkness and light, had revealed truths neither was prepared to face. Now Samael spent his time patrolling the forest, perimeter, or in deep conversation with the guardian, always finding reasons to be elsewhere when Eva entered a room. The flame sensed her disquiet, responding with gentle pulses of warmth from the mark on her chest. It had grown more articulate in its communications, sending not just impressions but complex concepts directly into her mind. Tonight, it seemed particularly active, almost anxious. "You feel it too, don't you?" Eva whispered to the fire. "Something's coming. Talking to flames." "Now?" Samael's voice came from the chamber entrance. He stood partially in shadow, his face unreadable. Eva didn't turn. "Considering there's primordial fire living in my chest, it seemed like a reasonable relationship to develop." He approached cautiously, as if crossing some invisible boundary, before settling on a bench opposite her. The fire between them flared slightly, responding to their proximity. "The guardian says you've made remarkable progress with the alignment techniques," he offered, breaking the awkward silence. "I had a good teacher." Eva studied his face across the flames. Even in human form, his eyes betrayed his true nature. One gold, one midnight. "Where have you been, Samael?" He looked away. "Checking the wards, making sure we're still hidden." "For 2 days?" She leaned forward, the mark on her chest brightening. "You've been avoiding me since the ritual. Why?" The fire jumped higher between them, feeding on the tension. Samael watched it with the wariness of someone who had been burned before. "What did you see?" he asked finally, his voice low. "When we connected during the ritual, what did the flame show you?" Eva hesitated. The truth was complicated. During those moments of perfect balance, when their energies had merged, the flame had revealed fragments of Samael's past, not in ordered sequences, but in emotional flashes. Pain, loneliness, terrible choices made for survival, a name he no longer used but couldn't escape. "I saw you," she said, simply. "The real you, not just Nephilim, not just the last son of the fall, but who you were before. Who you've been trying not to be. Samael's jaw tightened, the skin around his eyes crinkling with tension. Then you understand why I've kept my distance. What I am, what I was created to be, is a danger to everything around me, especially you. That's not what I saw. Eva rose, circling the fire to sit beside him. He stiffened but didn't move away. I saw someone who spent millennia fighting his own nature. Someone who chose to save me when he was ordered to destroy me. I put the flame inside you, he countered, still not meeting her eyes. I made you a target for both heaven and hell. You saved my life, she corrected. And now we're connected, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. The mark on her chest pulsed in agreement, sending a tendril of warmth between them. Samael drew in a sharp breath as it touched him. The guardian asked if you'd told me your true name. Ava watched his reaction carefully. She said it might help me understand why the council fears the prophecy. Something ancient and pained passed across his features. The human glamour slipped momentarily, revealing cracks of light and shadow beneath his skin. Names have power, he said quietly, especially old ones. Tell me, Eva urged, moving closer until their shoulders nearly touched. Samael stared into the fire for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried echoes of what he once had been. Before the fall, before I became Nephilim, I was called Samyaza, the Watcher, leader of the Grigori who came to Earth and took human wives, creating the first generation of Nephilim. Eva felt the flame's recognition of the name, ancient knowledge unfolding within her. You were an angel, one of the highest in the celestial hierarchy. Bitterness tinged his words. Until I questioned the divine plan, led others in rebellion, and was cast out. Not fully fallen like Lucifer's. Legions, but no longer welcome in the Silver City, caught between realms. And the council? The Nephilim who sent you after me? Descendants of those first unions, diluted by generations of human blood. They fear me as much as they use me. His mouth twisted in a humorless smile. I'm their weapon against heaven's hunters, their diplomat to hell's courts, and their executioner when one of our kind steps out of line. The pieces began to fall into place. And when the prophecy said the flame will extinguish the last child of the fall, they assumed it meant you would destroy me, the last pure-blooded Nephilim, direct descendant of the original fallen angels. Samael finally turned to face her fully. Which is why they can't understand why I'm protecting you instead of eliminating the threat. Ava's hand moved without conscious thought, fingers brushing against his. Where they touched, golden light sparked between them. And why are you protecting me, Samael? The question hung between them, loaded with implications. Neither had dared voice. Before he could answer, the sanctuary shuddered around them. The fire in the pit suddenly dimmed, as if responding to an unseen pressure. They both leapt to their feet as the guardian rushed into the chamber, her ancient face grave. The wards are under attack, she announced. Something has found us. Something that can penetrate Nephilim blood magic. Samael's skin immediately began to crack, his true nature emerging. Angels. The guardian shook her head. Worse. Harbingers led by one much stronger than those you encountered before. Her mismatched eyes fixed on Eva. They've brought a hell prince to claim the flame. The name hit Eva like a physical blow, the flame recoiling within her chest. Hell prince? Demon nobility. Samael explained, wings of light and shadow half manifesting behind him. Fallen angels who embrace their corruption completely. If one has come in person, then hell wants the flame even more. Desperately than heaven does, the guardian finished. And unlike angels, demons have no compunction about destroying the forest to get what they want. As if to emphasize her words, a distant boom echoed through the sanctuary, followed by the cracking sound of massive trees being uprooted. The entire structure trembled. How did they find us? Eva demanded, the mark on her chest flaring with protective heat. I thought the blood ward concealed us completely. The Guardian's expression darkened. Blood can also betray. Someone with a connection to Samael's bloodline could trace the magic back to its source. Samael swore, his demonic features becoming more prominent. Asmodeus, it has to be. He's the only Hell Prince with access to my blood. How? Eva asked, even as the flame supplied a partial answer. Ancient memories of betrayal and binding contracts. A bargain, long ago. Samael confirmed grimly. My blood in exchange for sanctuary during the Great Hunt. I needed somewhere to hide. He wanted leverage over the last pure-blooded Nephilim. Another crash, closer this time. The crystal dome above cracked slightly, a thin fissure spreading across its surface. We need to leave, the Guardian urged, already moving toward the sanctuary's rear exit. There's a path through the oldest part of the forest. If we can reach the heart tree, you might be able to use the same method you used to escape the angels. Eva felt the flame surge in response, ready to create another tunnel. Between realities. But a different sensation followed. A certainty that running would only delay the inevitable. No, she said, surprising both herself and the others. If we run, they'll destroy the sanctuary and the forest trying to find us. This place has protected Nephilim for centuries. I won't be responsible for its fall. The Guardian stared at her in shock. You can't fight a Hell Prince, child. Not even with the flame. Maybe not alone. Eva turned to Samael, the mark on her chest. Blazing now. But we're not alone, are we? What we did during the warding ritual, the balance we created, it was more powerful than either of us expected. Understanding dawned in his dual-colored eyes. You want to try it again, against Asmodeus. I want to stop running. Eva held his gaze steadily. The flame chose me for a reason. Maybe this is it. Samael studied her face, conflict evident in his expression. If we fail, the flame falls into Hell's hands. The consequences would be catastrophic. And if we keep running, we'll eventually be caught anyway. Eva stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat and chill emanating from his partially manifested wings. You've been fighting your nature for millennia, Samael. What if it's not about fighting anymore? What if it's about balance? The sanctuary shook again, more violently this time. Dust and crystal shards rained from the damaged dome. There's no time to debate. The Guardian interrupted urgently. They're breaking. Through the outer wards. Choose now. Samael looked from the Guardian to Eva, indecision warring across his features. Then, with a decisive movement, he reached for Eva's hand. Where they touched, golden light bloomed, the flame responding to his proximity, eager for reunion. If we do this, there's no turning back, he warned, eyes shifting fully to their true colors. Asmodeus won't stop until one of us is destroyed. Eva nodded, feeling the flame rise within her, its ancient power flowing through her veins. Then we make sure it's not us. The Guardian's expression was equal parts fear and awe. I'll strengthen what remains of the wards to buy you time to prepare. After that, may the old powers protect you both. She hurried away, leaving Eva and Samael standing hand in hand as the sanctuary continued to tremble around them. How do we do this? Eva asked, willing confidence into her voice despite the fear coiling in her stomach. Samael's wings fully manifested now, stretching to their impressive span. One side brilliant light, one side deepest shadow. We let go of what separates us. I stop fighting my dual nature. You embrace what the flame has made you. The mark on Eva's chest blazed in agreement, tendrils of fire beginning to spread across her skin in intricate patterns. The flame crown she had manifested in the liminal church appeared above her head, followed by the mantle of fire around her shoulders. And then? She asked, her voice carrying harmonic undertones as the flame's essence merged more fully with hers. Samael's expression was solemn. but a hint of something like hope flickered in his eyes. Then we face a hell prince with the one thing neither heaven nor hell possesses anymore. Which is? His hand tightened around hers, cracks spreading across his skin as he fully embraced both halves of his nature for perhaps the first time since the fall. Perfect balance, he said simply. The sanctuary's main entrance exploded inward in a shower of wood and crystal, extinguishing the central fire and plunging the chamber into darkness. Darkness immediately dispelled by the light emanating from Ava and Samael's joined forms as they turned to face whatever came through the smoke and ruins. Through the swirling debris stepped a figure both beautiful and horrific. Where angels radiated cold light and Nephilim balanced dual natures, the Hell Prince Asmodeus embraced corruption as art. His form was humanoid, but perfect to the point of wrongness, skin-like, polished obsidian, features carved from dark marble. 6 wings extended behind him, not feathered, but composed of living shadow that devoured light. Where his eyes should have been, crimson flame burned in empty sockets. Samyaza, he purred, using Samael's ancient name with deliberate provocation. How predictable you remain, even after all these millennia, always protecting what you should destroy. Eva felt Samael tense beside her, but their connection remained unbroken. Through the flames' awareness, she sensed the history between them, complex, ancient, and stained with betrayal on both sides. Asmodeus. Samael's voice rumbled with power as his true nature fully manifested. Still hiding behind contracts and blood magic, I see. Too afraid to face me directly? The Hell Prince's mouth curved in a smile that revealed too many teeth, each sharp as a razor. Afraid? Hardly. Merely efficient. His burning gaze shifted to Eva, the flames in his eye sockets flaring higher. So this is the vessel that holds the heart of creation. A human. How disappointingly mundane. Eva stood her ground, the flame responding to the threat by intensifying its manifestation around her. The crown of fire above her head grew, and the mark on her chest blazed through her clothing. I'm more than a vessel, she said, her voice carrying the flame's harmonic resonance. Asmodeus tilted his head, studying her with newfound interest. Indeed, the flame has merged with you more thoroughly than anticipated. Most impressive, and most useful for my purposes. Behind him, more figures emerged from the ruined entrance, harbingers in greater numbers than before, their smoke-like bodies more substantial within the sanctuary's weakened boundaries. They spread outward, surrounding the central chamber. I've come to collect what's mine by right, Asmodeus continued smoothly. The primordial flame belongs in hell, where its power can be properly appreciated. The flame belongs to no one, Eva countered, feeling ancient knowledge flow through her. It existed before hell, before heaven, before the separation of light and darkness. The Hell Prince's smile thinned. Pretty words, little mortal, but irrelevant. Your cooperation, while preferable, is ultimately optional. He gestured casually, and 2 harbingers launched forward. Before they could reach Eva, Samael's wings swept outward, light and shadow working in concert to create a barrier. The creatures struck it and recoiled, their forms smoking where they had touched the balanced energy. You'll have to go through me, Samael growled. Asmodeus sighed theatrically. Again with the heroics. Have you learned nothing from your fall? His expression hardened, the flames in his eye sockets blazing hotter. Very well. I had hoped to avoid damaging the flame's vessel, but plans can be adjusted. With frightening speed, he closed the distance between them. One obsidian hand shot out toward Eva's throat, while the other seized Samael's shoulder. Where he touched Samael, corruption spread. Black veins crawling across the Nephilim's skin, attempting to tip the balance toward darkness. Eva felt it happen through their connection. Samael's demonic half responding to Asmodeus's influence, growing stronger while his angelic nature weakened. The balance they had established, began to falter. Acting on instinct, Eva intensified her focus on their joined hands. The flame surged from her chest down her arm, meeting the advancing. Corruption at their connection point. Gold battled black, fire pushing back shadow. Asmodeus hissed in surprise, his burning gaze fixing on their clasped hands. Impossible. No human should be able to counter hellfire. She's not just human anymore, Samael grated out, fighting against the corruption trying to claim him. His wings beat once, powerful enough to create a shockwave that pushed Asmodeus back several steps. The Hell Prince recovered quickly, anger replacing surprise. Enough games. He raised both hands, darkness gathering between his palms. If you won't surrender the flame willingly, I'll rip it from your still-beating heart. The attack came as a torrent of shadow and hellfire, aimed directly at Eva's chest, where the mark glowed brightest. Samael moved to shield her, but Eva stepped forward instead, pulling him with her. Guided by the flame's ancient knowledge, she raised their joined hands. Together, she whispered. As Asmodeus's power struck them, something extraordinary happened. Instead of harm, the dark energy flowed into their connection, feeding the perfect balance they had created. Eva felt the flame absorb it, transform it, and return it as pure power, neither light nor dark, but primal creation energy. A shockwave exploded outward, knocking Asmodeus back and disintegrating the nearest harbingers. The sanctuary trembled, but this time not from attack. The living wood and crystal responded to the primordial energy, healing broken sections, growing stronger. Asmodeus rose, genuine fear flickering in his burning eyes. What are you doing? Eva and Samael moved in perfect synchronization, the flame's power flowing freely between them now. Where their auras had been separate before, they now merged into something new, a corona of balanced energy that was neither angelic nor demonic, neither human nor flame, but all of these together. Fulfilling the prophecy, Eva answered, the flame speaking through her. The flame will extinguish the last child of the fall by creating something new in its place, Samael finished. Understanding dawned on Asmodeus's perfect features, followed by fury. No, the balance cannot be restored. The separation is eternal. He attacked again, more desperately this time, calling the remaining harbingers to join their power with his. Darkness and corruption surged toward Eva and Samael from all directions. Eva closed her eyes, trusting the flame completely now. The mark on her chest expanded until her entire body glowed from within. Beside her, Samael's dual nature fully integrated for perhaps the first time since his creation, light and shadow no longer fighting for dominance, but working as one. When the Hell Prince's attack reached them, it simply dissolved, absorbed into their balanced energy, and transformed. The harbingers nearest to them began to change, their corrupt forms purified by proximity to the primordial power, returning to the liminal entities they had been before Hell. Claimed them. "Stop this," Asmodeus commanded, genuine panic in his voice now. "You have no idea what you're unleashing." "We know exactly what we're doing," Eva said calmly. The flame crown above her head expanded, meeting and merging with Samael's wings to create a sphere of power around them both. Samael turned to her, his true face fully revealed, no longer split between light and dark, but harmonized into something transcendent. "Eva," he said softly, "if we continue, there's no going back. You'll never be fully human again." She met his gaze without fear. "I haven't been human since you found me in that fire 6 months ago." Her free hand rose to touch his face, tracing the patterns that now showed both his angelic and demonic heritage in balanced measure. "And I don't think I want to be." Something passed between them that went beyond words. A recognition, a promise, a choice freely made. As one, they turned back to face Asmodeus, who had retreated to the sanctuary entrance, gathering what remained of his power for a final, desperate attack. "You were right about one thing," Eva called to him. "The flame doesn't belong to heaven or hell. It belongs to balance," Samael added. They raised their joined hands, and the flame responded with joyous power. A beam of pure creation energy, gold threaded with every color imaginable, shot forth, striking Asmodeus squarely in the chest. The Hell Prince screamed, not in pain but in recognition, as primordial fire touched what remained of his original angelic essence. For a brief moment, his corruption fell away, revealing the being he had been before the fall. Beautiful, perfect, and profoundly sad. Then the flame's energy engulfed him completely, purifying rather than destroying. When the light faded, Asmodeus was gone, not destroyed, but transformed and returned to the source from which all beings originated. The remaining harbingers fled, streaming out through the shattered entrance and into the night. In their wake, silence fell over the sanctuary, broken only by the gentle hum of power still flowing between Eva and Samael. "It's over," she breathed, hardly believing it. "No," came the Guardian's voice from the shadows. She emerged, her ancient face alight with wonder. "It's just beginning." Around them, the sanctuary pulsed with renewed life. The crystal dome had not only repaired itself, but now shimmered with opalescent light that hadn't been present before. The living wood grew greener, stronger, more vibrant. At their feet, the central fire pit reignited spontaneously, flames dancing in celebration. "What happens now?" Eva asked, turning back to Samael. Their hands remained joined, the connection between them permanent in ways she was only beginning to understand. His expression softened as he looked at her. "Now we have a choice. The flame has fulfilled its purpose, restoring balance where corruption had taken hold. We could separate it from you, return it to its original form." Eva felt the flame's response before she consciously formed her own. "It doesn't want that," she said with certainty. "And neither do I." Samael's free hand rose to hover over the mark on her chest, not quite touching. "Then we continue what we've started. Neither heaven nor hell will stop pursuing us. The very existence of balance threatens the separation they've maintained for millennia." "Let them come," Eva said simply. The crown of fire above her head diminished, but didn't disappear entirely, settling into a subtle glow that marked her as permanently changed. "We've faced worse." The Guardian approached them, her mismatched eyes filled with tears. The old prophecies spoke of this moment, when fire would not destroy but transform, when duality would find harmony again. She bowed her head respectfully. "The sanctuary and all who shelter here are yours to protect, if you choose to remain." Eva looked at Samael questioningly. His wings had also settled, no longer fully manifested, but present as a shimmer of energy behind him. The cracks in his skin had stabilized into permanent markings, beautiful patterns of light and shadow that no longer fought for dominance. "A sanctuary," he mused, looking around at the transformed space. "A place of balance, neither heaven nor hell." His gaze returned to Eva, warming with an emotion she was only now allowing herself to recognize. "It seems fitting." "For now," she agreed, squeezing his hand. The flame pulsed contentedly within her. No longer separate, but fully integrated. Not a passenger or a weapon, but a part of her very being. Until the next challenge finds us. Samael smiled, a genuine expression she had rarely seen from him. "And it will. Balance isn't a state you reach and maintain forever. It's a constant journey, a choice made every day. Then we'll choose it together," Eva said simply. As dawn light began to filter through the crystal dome, illuminating the sanctuary with new day, the last child of the fall, and the woman who carried the primordial flame stood together in perfect balance, not as angel or demon, human or divine, but as something new, something that hadn't existed in creation since the worlds were sundered. The flame that was meant to extinguish had instead ignited a new beginning, what would you choose if the very thing that made you different was also what made you powerful? Eva faced this question when she discovered the flame within her wasn't a curse, but a gift, one that required her to embrace her true nature rather than fight against it. Sometimes the prophecies we fear most aren't warnings of destruction, but invitations to transformation. In a world that demands we take sides, light or dark, right or wrong, human or divine, perhaps the greatest courage lies in choosing balance instead. Samael spent millennia battling his dual nature until he realized that wholeness doesn't come from rejecting parts of ourselves, but from integrating them. Their story reminds us that love isn't about finding someone who completes you, but someone who helps you become complete in yourself. If this tale of fire, fate, and forbidden connection resonated with you, remember that we all carry flames of potential within us, waiting to be awakened. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that explore the shadows between worlds and the light within ourselves. Share with someone who needs to be reminded that sometimes what seems like an ending is actually a new beginning. Until our next journey together, may you find balance in your own duality.